Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. We're in the kitchen. It must be cooking time. And for some strange reason that I've yet to understand, I don't need to, these videos are quite popular. Now, there's only so many things that I cook. I very rarely venture into the unknown, simply because it might not work, and this is my food. This type of cooking I do because it suits me. I have a freezer that has space in it, so I cook certain meals in large volumes and split it up into portions which I can put in the freezer and then help myself to 10 minutes in the microwave, and I have a hot meal ready to go that I know what's in it because I've prepared it myself. So that's the logic. Some of this I will have to speed up because it's boring, like chopping onions and things like that. But today I'm actually doing a curry. I'm out. Literally, there are none in the freezer. We can't have that. This is not my normal Sunday food. It just so happens that the shopping that arrived on Friday, the chicken, which should have lasted several days, only had a short shelf life, and it's on its date today. So it needs to be cooked, which is why I'm doing this on a Sunday. It's not my normal Sunday type food. Nonetheless, I try and stick to things that are not bad for me. Notice the emphasis on not bad for me. I didn't say good for me, I said not bad for me. Curry is not that good for me. As I've said in the past, I have a very, very mild form of IBS, and certain things upset my tongue. The worst one is chili. It's hot, spicy and beans. These are not good for digestive issues. So I still do that, and I still enjoy it, and I still like that meal. But I know the next day I will suffer a bit, shall we say, but I'm here. I plan that. We don't do that sort of meal when we're out all day the following day. That would be dodgy. But when I'm here, you know, I'm here. So I haven't got a problem. Curry is not so bad, depends how hot it is, but the ingredients that go in it are okay. They don't upset my tongue. The heat of it does, so if I go for a really hot curry, which I don't do normally nowadays, then it would upset my tongue. So there we go, it's curry time. The sauces I've got, I don't make a curry from scratch. That would take me all afternoon, and I'd be so bored by the end of it I probably wouldn't want to eat it. I buy the sauces. So we've got a jalfrezi, we have a tikka masala, which is a made-up curry. There's no such thing really. It was made up in the UK for people in the UK to eat. It's not real, but it tastes nice. And the other one's a madras for some heat. 99p each, and when you've got an offer of 4 for 3, the other one up on the shelf didn't cost me anything. Dirt cheap. I've got 6 chicken portions. Sorry, is it 6 or 4? Can't remember. These are large, lean chicken breasts, which when you're on a diet, this is good meat. I will chop those up. I've got now, potatoes are something I remove from my diet because of the starchiness, yeah, and also portion sizes. As you remember, have a nice piece of fish and some peas and then half a plate of potatoes. By removing the potatoes, I've got a portion of fish and some peas and a nice small meal, which helps with this. Doesn't seem to be going down that quick, but it is going down. I don't care how quick, as long as it's doing that and not that. So we've got some baby potatoes, which I will chop up. I've got some onions, and I will get some peas and sweet corn out of the freezer, and I will cook those in the microwave just to get them hot. If you put those straight out of the freezer in a curry mix, it chills it right down, then you'll use energy heating it back up again. So this is quite a quick meal really. So I will speed bits up as we go along, but basically the process is chop the onions, get them in the cauldron, wok. That contains the whole thing, and it will be nearly up to the top by the time I've finished. So onions first, get them cooking, and I take them up to nearly brown, just starting to catch, just to get a bit of colour and a bit of extra flavour. The potatoes will be chopped up and boiled but not cooked right through. That's what the saucepan's for. The chicken will then be chopped up. That gets cooked separately in this absolutely beautiful pan that Hannah bought me. Actually, she bought me the wok as well. But I can cook chicken in there without any oil of any kind and it won't stick. But it browns nicely. And I do that in a separate pan so that I can brown the chicken and cook it while other stuff's going on in the other big pan. So we've got two big pans on the go. And because I need to cut up meat, I think I'll get the big knife out. It's a bit special, this knife. We keep it well out of the way from my fingers. It's got its own casing and everything. And it is a special knife. It's very sharp. It belonged to my son, who is no longer with us. So that's my very sharp knife. Any fingers that get near the edge of that are probably going to come off. So we go very careful with that. And because these sauces have got colourings in them, we do not want to splash our shirt. So first job is get my apron out. This only comes out for this type of cooking, so that I don't splash the front of my shirt. I don't know why I got this type of apron, because it looks like a butcher's apron, doesn't it? Well, I am cutting up some meat, I suppose. And do you know, when I first got this apron I couldn't tie this because I was too big round the middle. Now we've got that much spare. Enough to do a little bow, or half bow as they call it, just to hold it still. Right, that's the blurb. I will have to move the camera a few times, and I will move it this time because I am going to try and film what I actually do. So I'm going to move the camera to here and tip it down so that you can see what's going on here, and we will probably be speeding this up with some music from now on, because the first job is to chop the onions. Here we go. I've just paused there. Ice cream van. Do you still get that in your country? A van that comes round and sells ice cream and ice lollies, and all the kids run out from their houses and queue up. And mum and dad come out with a mortgage to be able to pay for them. On with the meal. Right, that's the onions chopped up. We'll get those on. A little bit of olive oil. I cook anything that needs some oil or fat or whatever you want to call it in a form of frying. I use olive oil simply because although that is fat, it's not saturated fat. It's fat that we can live with. Obviously we don't want loads of it when we're supposed to be on a diet, but we can put up with some. And out of the type of things you can cook with, that's probably comes out about the best. We don't use extra virgin olive oil because it's got a lower smoke point, so if you start frying onions and things like that, the goodness that's in it will break down long before you've actually cooked whatever you're cooking in it. Whereas the ordinary olive oil actually lasts, so it's better for cooking. So I've read. I don't know for a fact. Right, so that's that done. We'll get that on and I'll be back. Right, that's the onions done, and I made this mistake last time. I haven't actually put the heat under them yet. We need to do the potatoes because they take 10 minutes and the onions don't take anywhere near 10 minutes, so I end up with things ready. Instead of together, they're odd. So we'll do the potatoes next. I've boiled the kettle. Still the most efficient way of boiling water. And then we will chop these up into chunky pieces. Like that. We won't cook them all because it's quite a big bag, but these are baby potatoes. Well, at certain times of year they are, and at other times of years that's not baby potatoes, that's quite large potatoes. But given that I'm going to cut them up whatever size they start from, there's no point in worrying about how big they are. It's the type that's important, and these potatoes cook nicely without going all mushy. They stay intact. There will be some left over. Now, I'm not supposed to be eating potatoes with my diet because of the starchiness, but it will make a couple of meals like I used to have, where potatoes were part of that meal, and I will enjoy them as such. As I said, these diets are not, as far as I'm concerned, not strict. My life won't end if I don't stick to it strictly. I will do my best, and the majority of the time I stick to my diet. Doesn't seem to be working as quickly as I would like, but generally speaking it's working. And it's not just a diet to lose weight, it's a diet that's geared up to heart health as well. So certain foods that are not so good for your heart, like red meat and stuff like that, we've either cut out or cut right down. And that's the way I look at it. Cutting right down is okay. Cutting right out I'm not so keen on, simply because if I can't have some of the foods I enjoy now and again, what's the point in getting up in the morning? So that's how I see my diet. I don't see it as strict. I see it as I will stick to it most of the time. There are times when I don't. How are we doing here? This seems like quite a lot, and this is the one ingredient that doesn't shrink when it's cooked. These chunky pieces of potatoes stay chunky. They don't degrade. One more big one, and then what's left will do a few potatoes on another meal. Right, so that's that. That's those done. Those can go out the way now. The onions are done. That can go out the way now. This is the bag that the onions came in. They're plastic bags without holes in. So they're very good for putting waste stuff in. They are very good for putting Mojo's sachets in, because these are non-recyclable. So we have a non-recyclable bag on the go, which I will add to, and that will go in the dustbin when dustbin day comes round, which in fact is tomorrow. Well, I don't know which dustbin it is. Right, so these potatoes can now go on. They need 10 minutes, and halfway through that I will start the onions so that they come together at the same time and they can both go in the pan. The onions stay in the pan they're in, the potatoes go in on top. We then add the sauces and turn the heat down to just a tick over. I will then go and get some peas and sweet corn, get them going in the microwave and add to them. In the meantime, we'll sort the chicken out. So again, I'll be back. Okay, so just swinging around here, then we've got the onions in the wok with some oil, not a lot, and we've got the potatoes on the heat. Now, even though I boiled the kettle and used boiling water, they will still take a while to come up to the boil because the pan, the saucepan and the potatoes are cold. The cooling effect is quite dramatic, so these will take probably 5 minutes to come back up to the boil, and then they'll get 10 minutes, and as I said, halfway through we will start cooking those on a high heat, sweat them down and just catch them, just start some browning to add some flavour. Right, back over to chopping. Okay, so while all that lot's doing, we'll get on with the chicken pieces. So these are lean chicken breasts, non-red meat, white meat effectively, and as part of a diet, this is good stuff. It does need chopping up into pieces, and the idea is to try and cut this up into pieces that are roughly the same size. That way they will cook evenly, so that they're all cooking at the same time. That's the idea. This is the bit where we watch our fingers. So chunky pieces, you want to be able to taste the chicken through the sauce. If you cut your meat up too small in a curry, then it all just tastes of curry. Whereas if you leave the meat a bit chunky, then in amongst that curry flavour is still a taste of the meat. It's still there. Nonetheless, we do want chunky pieces. And to try and cook them all at the same pace requires them to be roughly the same size. It doesn't have to be exact, just somewhere near it. And you can see what I mean about this knife. It just floats through this effortlessly. I'm not forcing this knife down through. It's just gently going through the meat. It's an excellent knife. Something I could never afford, quite honestly. This type of knife is incredibly expensive. And my son had a whole set of these. Hannah had some, I think my other son had some. And I had two. This one and what I call my everyday knife, my smaller one. But this cuts through meat effortlessly, and as far as I'm concerned, the best knife in the world is a sharp knife. Any knife that doesn't come up to that is quite honestly dangerous, because you're more likely to slip and you're more likely to cut yourself with a blunt knife than you ever are with a sharp knife. All you need to do with a sharp knife is concentrate and not start looking at other stuff while you're chopping. Otherwise, in amongst the chicken will be some fingers. We don't want that. The last thing we want to do is have to stop cooking a meal to rush up to A&E to get our fingers put back on. I am joking. But there are people daft enough to do that. If you've got a sharp knife, take care. And if you haven't got a sharp knife, sharpen it and de-risk it. I'm running out of board to store this on. Here's my potatoes doing there. Just starting to bubble. Not quite there yet, but nearly. I'll stack these up a bit. When I cook these, I'll cook them in 2 goes, because no matter how hot the pan gets, if I chuck this amount of chicken in 1 go, then it will cool the pan down enough to stop the cooking. So I always do that in 2 smaller goes, so that it goes on and gets some colour quite quickly, but still cooks through. It's still got to cook. It's all very well getting it nice and brown and adding some flavour, but it's still got to cook through. It's still a raw meat at the end of the day that needs to be cooked. Right, how are we doing? Nearly there. Just a few more snicks and we'll be done. We'll have a huge pile of chicken pieces. This is nice lean meat, this, and from the supermarket that I use, relatively this is quite cheap. This is their own version, and when I cook it there'll be hardly any water comes out of it, because nowadays there's a con trick with chicken. it's pumped full of water to bump the weight up without adding more meat. And it's a con because you're paying for water. It's just a con. This isn't so bad. The other type of chicken breast that I normally get, but they were out of stock, so this was the replacement, it's called Willow Farms, and it is literally, you know, well, not local, but you know, a farmed meat that's different to the mass-produced supermarket stuff. It's a little bit cheaper, but the quality is, to me, as good if not better. So that's what I usually have. So there we have our pile of chicken. That's the last of the chopping, and my potatoes are now bubbling at 5:13. What? Is that the time? I should have eaten it 15 minutes ago, not still be cooking it. We started late because we were sitting out in the sunshine on the bench with a glass of wine and Mojo, enjoying the sunshine, which when it's there has to be done. When it's not there, we don't need to worry about it. We can stay indoors and look out the window. But yes, my potatoes are bubbling at 5:13 that was. They now need 10 minutes, and while they are doing that, I will think about putting the chicken on. This gets cooked with no oil, gets cooked dry, browns quite readily, and cooks through in 2 goes. So again, I'll be back. Right, so now onto the cooking. The potatoes are bubbling away. Say they need about 10 minutes. They don't need to be totally cooked, but they are chopped up into quite small pieces. Now, boiled potatoes normally take 15 minutes. 10 is more than enough. And then I will drain them, which that'll be off camera, and let them steam for a bit so they dry off, so that I don't add too much non-curry moisture into the mix. The onions are frying away. And I get to the point where the onions are done, the potatoes get added, the sauces get added, and at that point I cook the chicken, because that can bubble away quietly in the background, just adding flavour to the ingredients while I cook the chicken. And then the chicken can go in after. I like to concentrate on cooking the chicken so that I don't burn it, I don't overcook it, and I certainly don't undercook it. So we need to concentrate at that point, so we get everything else ready beforehand. So that's, the potatoes have now had 6 or 7 minutes, so not too much longer. We've got our clean pan over here, that one. That's for the chicken. That will go on my biggest gas ring, which is a double ring. I get flames around there and in the middle. That gets that pan very hot, and it cooks the chicken properly. I can't cook it in here because there's stuff in there and it just wouldn't cook properly. That's why I use a separate pan. And then tomorrow we will have a lot of washing up, won't we? I'll be back in a bit. Okay, we're getting there. The onions are just starting to catch. There's just a little bit of colour there now. Don't want to burn them. As Jamie Oliver says, it's not burnt, it's flavour. I wonder whether that's an excuse sometimes. But they've had enough cooking now, so they can stay as is. We will turn the heat right down. Potatoes are coming up to their 10 minutes. So what we will do now to stop the onions cooking is add the sauces. You can tell the pan's hot, can't you? This soon cools it down. And that will stop the onions getting any browner. Otherwise, if you cook them a little bit too much and they catch, you've got like a burnt twang. And it can flavour the whole meal, so we try not to do that. We'll give that a stir. That's the onions now stopped from cooking. You can tell the sizzling's all stopped. And This is going to get stirred so many times, I don't worry about making sure it's thoroughly mixed yet. My onion pieces are quite chunky. I like chunky pieces in my curry. Now the heat can go off the potatoes, and I will go off and drain those, and we'll be back. Right, while the potatoes are steaming dry, we will sort out these jars, because although I've tipped them in the mix, it hasn't all come out. So we put a bit of water in, give them a good shake, and although that thins it slightly, it's going to bubble for quite a while, so it will thicken up again naturally. This is just to get the rest of the sauce out of the jar. I don't like waste. Now I do have a fourth jar of sauce sitting up on the shelf, because as I said they were 4 for 3. So when you're only paying 99p and you get one for free, it's pretty good value. But until I get all the other ingredients in, I don't know how full this pan is going to be. But if I've got room, I will put the fourth one in. So those jars will now get rinsed and they'll go out for recycling. We'll just give that a stir. And we've just gone over the edges, we don't want that. Right, potatoes. This is why I've got my apron on. While we start plopping stuff into the sauces, that's where we get sploots onto our nice shirt. Right, we'll just get those in. That bumps up the volume quite a bit. Nice big chunky pieces. And the next set of big chunky pieces will of course be the chicken. Now it takes a while for the pan that I'm going to cook the chicken in to get up to temperature. And we have a little trick to find out when the pan is up to temperature. So the first thing we need is some fire. Let's get some fire on the go. Which one is it? That one. So don't use it very often. Let's get some flames going. That's a lot of heat. And what we do is we get one smallish piece of chicken and put it right in the middle of the pan. And when that sizzles and bubbles, the pan's up to temperature. Then we can put a job lot of chicken in. So I'll be back. Okay, so this piece is now bubbling and sizzling. And if I give it a flip, you can see that it's colouring. So the pan is now up to temperature. So what we can do now is add half the chicken. Several reasons for only doing half. First of all, we've got to spread them out and get them flat. So there's only so much room on the pan. And if you chuck it all in, they'll be stacked up on top of each other and they won't cook. You won't be able to see them cooking. So we get these spread out so that they're not on top of each other. And they've all got their own individual bit of pan to cook in. And then we resist the temptation to fiddle. Leave them alone. Let them cook through on that side and bubble up through. They'll cook halfway through the pieces and start to brown. Then we can turn them over, at which point we tend to get burnt fingers. And there is a way around that. And the way around that is to use a long handled fork, which I haven't got. I keep meaning to get something suitable to do this with, and I still haven't done it. But we will see what we've got. We've got quite a long handled. No, that's a spoon, that's no good. What have we got here? Haven't got anything suitable really. So we'll just use a knife and a fork, and by choosing one, this is my eating knives and forks. Reasonably sharp knives, suitable for when I have a chop or steak or something like that. We don't have so often now because it's red meat. Wooden handles, so they don't heat up so much while I'm burning my fingers trying to turn every single piece over, which is what we've got to do now. So let's go. As I said, this pan is hot, and we need to turn each piece over. And that will then cook through. Don't forget it's going to carry on cooking a bit in the curry sauce, which is hot. So this isn't the only cooking the chicken's going to get. This is to cook it through as best I can and to get some colour on it. And like I said, Jamie Oliver said it's not burnt, it's flavour. And certainly with meat, browning the meat gives it flavour. And you know, I've been cooking rather a long time. We're getting on a bit, you know. So I've been doing this a while. Not necessarily this meal, but meat in general. And I understand the amount of browning that you can put on meat without it being burnt, and it does add a lot of flavour into your cooking. So I'm all for it. Nearly there. Right, there we go, that's everything turned. And again, leave it alone. Notice there is some bubbling now. There are some juices coming out of the chicken. There is a little bit of moisture in it, but it's not a lot. And because of the heat of the pan, it will dry on the pan and brown. So when the next lot of chicken goes in, it will brown a lot quicker because the pan's already brown, as opposed to this lot that went in clean. While we're at it, we'll give our curry a stir, because it's still on the heat. It's on a very, very low heat. The sauces that went in were cold, so we've got to bring those up to temperature so that it can blip away and impart all those flavours into the curry. How are we doing? Always have a look. You've got eyes. Check what's going on. Nope. Where they were turned over, the other side is not brown yet, so it still needs some heat. This heat is still on full, but there's such a volume in there that relatively it's a lower heat now than it was when we first started. Nonetheless, this chicken's nearly done. Now you see why I try and cut the pieces up to roughly the same size. It's so that they all cook at the same rate. You've got great big pieces and little tiny pieces. Your tiny pieces are burnt and your big pieces aren't cooked yet. So this is the way to cook your meat evenly, is to get it all the same size. Yep, we've got browning on the underside now, so both sides have got some colour. So we will now take that off and tip it straight in there along with any juices. And we try not to dip the pan in the sauce like we did last time. I have to go and wash it, because if you put it back on the heat it will just burn. So we just bring that up to temperature, stir that in. See, the pan's nearly full now, we're nearly there. We've got another same amount of chicken to go in on top of this, and we've still got our peas and sweet corn to do, which I haven't even got out of the freezer yet because they need to go in last. They don't need long, as long as they're cooked beforehand. Right, rest of the chicken. That can now go in. That's that done. Again, spread it out so that each piece has got its own bit of pan to cook in, not stacked up on top of each other. They won't cook like that. The ones on the top won't cook and the ones underneath will be overcooked. So get them out nice and flat. As I say, each piece needs its own piece of pan to cook in. Again, just use your eyes, you know, are any pieces on top of other pieces? If they are, move them. Just spread them around. And then again, leave it alone. Let those cook. Now this has to be done a bit differently, the second batch. Because the pan was already brown, if I turned any of these pieces over, they would look as though they've browned already. But they haven't cooked halfway through yet. They still need some time. So these get left a bit longer than what your eyes tell you, because the pan was already brown. Yeah, so these get left a little bit longer. And yeah, you're getting there. As I said, I will go and get some peas and sweet corn so that we've got some colour in there. That's not essential. I just like that, you know, little bit of additional colour. If I had some mushrooms, I would add those in, but I haven't, so I won't. The trouble is, mushrooms, when I used to go shopping, I used to go to the store, you could pick up a bag and go to a batch of mushrooms and pick out 4 or 5 mushrooms, and then they'd weigh them and charge you for them. I don't go there anymore, so they come in packs. I can't do that, you know, choose your own type thing anymore. And because they come in packs, there's always too many. So I very rarely have mushrooms now, which is a shame. I like mushrooms. A lovely meal for me that I never have now is a mushroom omelette. But to make a good one, for me, I would like several different types of mushrooms. And we're looking at a ridiculous amount of money to get the mushrooms. I mean, the eggs I've already got. I have eggs for breakfast every day, so I would have the eggs. But to add in an assortment of mushrooms would cost me an awful lot of money for a meal that, to me, is not a main meal. An omelette is a lunch, you know, it's a lunch type meal, not a main meal, or it is for me. So it would be a very, very expensive meal, which I just can't justify. We have to go careful with the pennies, whether we like it or not. What's the old expression? Look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. You know, they still keep going down whether we like it or not. This current government are not helping. They seem to think they're doing wonderful things. Yeah, cuckoo land, mate. You're not doing wonderful things at all. You are making people poorer. And it's those that are relatively poor already that are getting hit the hardest. And those that are quite well off are not getting hit bad at all. And it's not what's expected. I mean, the governments we get, you expect the Conservatives, the Tories, you expect them to look after the rich, because most of them are. And you expect a Labour government to look after the poor, the workers, you know, the less well off. Well, we voted in a Labour government to try and get some of that, and quite honestly got the complete opposite. And there's a lot of people not too happy. Yeah. But I look at it like this. I didn't vote, so I shouldn't really have a say in it. And at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do. If I went here in my local area and voted for what I thought was best, it would have been a waste of time, because nothing would change round here. Nothing changes round here. It's been set in its ways for, I don't know, however long we've been allowed to vote, I suppose. So it would make no difference. And that's the thing that, to me, is wrong with the system. I can only vote locally, and that builds up into what is our government for the country. So you can only change your local bit, and if your local bit is a relative minority, what's the point? Nothing changes at the high level. The bit that decides what they're going to cut and what they're going to drop and what they're going to pay money out for. Right, chicken done, heat off, and all of this, including any juices and the scraping of the pan, goes in here because it's all flavour. Now you see how brown and stuck on that pan is? That looks like a washing up nightmare, doesn't it? that will come straight off. It's such a good pan that Hannah got me. That will not be a problem when it comes to washing up. A tip, don't put that under the tap with cold water. You ruin the surface. Let it cool down naturally. Don't put it in water until it's cool. And when it's cool, I will put a drop of water in it and leave it in to soak, ready to wash up tomorrow morning. So we certainly, I never wash up after I've cooked a meal. I eat it and walk away and all the mess gets cleared up the next day. That's how I like to work. Right, so that's ready to blip away and cook the flavours into those chunky bits. We are quite near the top of the pan, so we won't be adding the other sauce. There's more than enough in there. And I will now go and get the peas and sweet corn, boil the kettle again, put them in some hot water, put them in the microwave, bring them back to the boil, drain them in the sieve, and then we can add them. So again, I'll be back. Right, so the last of the ingredients, the peas and the sweet corn. This is to add a bit of colour, and it's a bit of a guilt conscience because they say you should have 5 a day of fruit and veg. Well, I don't eat much fruit, apart from the fruit that's in my fruit yoghurt that I have often for lunch, not always. But I don't eat fruit. And I have veg with my evening meal every day, but only one. So I'm nowhere near my 5 a day. This just adds some vegetables in. It's a guilt trip. And it adds a bit of colour. Yeah, otherwise it looks a bit bland. Doesn't make a lot of difference to the taste adding peas and sweet corn, I must admit. But providing they don't stew in here too long, you can still taste them as you eat the curry. So these were cooked through. Boiling water again from the kettle, into the microwave, bring back to the boil. So they don't need to be cooked, they're already cooked. All they need to do is take on a bit of flavour, which they will now do over the next couple of minutes, and then I'm ready to serve. But before we do, you lot need telling off. I'll show you why. Let me just tip the camera up a bit. Why do you lot need telling off? Oh, not enough. More. That better? Somewhere near that. We don't want the top of my head cut off, do we? Careful. Why do you lot need telling off? What do I normally do while I'm cooking that you haven't seen? 1,000 Roger points if you get it before I show you. Now I'll show you. Wine for the chef. Completely forgot. That would never happen if I wasn't messing about with the camera. So, wine for the chef. This is, for those interested, a Rioja, which is slightly spicy, I suppose you could say. Better for a curry would probably be a Shiraz because it's got that slight peppery taste, but that goes quite well with the curry. So that's what we've got. And we've only just poured it out, so we will try it and see. That'll do nicely. And I'm just letting that get back to a blip, and then I will serve it. These are my containers. These are the ones that go in the freezer. They take a portion each quite nicely. They're microwave proof, so they can go straight in the microwave. 10 minutes and I've got a meal. Yeah, it's as easy as that. And I don't have rice with my curries anymore. Again, it's the diet thing. Starchy and all that, and bumps up the volume. So by cutting out the rice, quick and easy meals, yeah? And relatively short preparation and cooking time. So I like this way of cooking. There was no way I'd get the extra sauce in there, it's full up to the brim. And that should do 8 portions. It might do 9. Depends how greedy the portions are. We shall see, but it'll certainly do 8. One of those is going on a plate for me to eat now, obviously. The others will go in the freezer when they've cooled down. So there we go. Why my cooking videos are popular, I haven't got a clue. It's supposed to be an orchid channel. This deviates totally from the orchid world, but like I've said before, everybody's got to eat. When I post this, I haven't got a clue. It's Sunday evening today. It's coming up to 6 o'clock now, which is an hour later than I would normally be eating. But it's been a nice day. I've been sat out in the sunshine with Mojo, and it's been a nice day, a leisurely day, which is what Sunday ought to be. Not quite sure why Sunday, but I like to think of it as a lazy day. I don't film tomorrow, but that doesn't mean to say I can't post this. So I may well post this video later on tomorrow to go on into Tuesday, so that there is something there for tomorrow. I'll have a think. It might be Tuesday's video to save me filming anything else. Planning ahead. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. I hope you've enjoyed me fannying around in the kitchen and chopping stuff up and chucking it in the cauldron and doing this type of cooking. It's something I don't do very often, because 7 or 8 curry portions in the freezer is going to last me a long time, because I would probably only have one a week, because my other meals are mainly fish, quite honestly. But it's there when I need it, and it's something Hannah enjoys when she comes down. So anyway, thanks for dropping by. See you next time. Cheers, now that I've got some.